The battlefield is ash and fire. A Vorsak captain lies broken, limbs gone, expecting death. But a human specialist kneels instead of killing. "I don't abandon people," he says. Why would he risk everything for an enemy? This single act of mercy might just change the course of a galactic war built on fear and misunderstanding. Darthorn moves through the smoke. The air tastes of melted plasteel and ozone. His HUD shows thermal blooms from continuing weapons fire 100 meters east. The engagement protocol is clear. Secure the perimeter. Eliminate combatants. Leave the fallen. Survival Directive 7 Alpha is standard doctrine across all human theaters. You don't risk the mission for a lost cause. You don't compromise your position for an enemy. He sees the Vorsak captain in a crater of cooled slag. Her lower body is gone. The armor is sheared away, revealing biomechanical systems sparking weakly. Blue hydraulic fluid seeps into the ash. She is conscious. Her head turns. Compound eyes focus on him. Her mandibles click once, a sound he recognizes from prisoner interrogations. It is the Vorsak signal for an honorable death. She expects the shot. Her own people would not help her. A breached suit is a contamination risk. A crippled soldier is a drain on resources. Vorsak doctrine is colder than human protocol. They leave their own to die. He knows this from after-action reports, from the shattered wrecks they've found with wounded executed by their own side. Dar kneels. The servos in his armor whine softly. He does not raise his rifle. The weight of it is familiar in his hands, but he keeps the muzzle pointed at the ground. The battle noise is a constant backdrop, but here, in this small crater, there is a pocket of silence. He says the words. They are quiet. They are not for command channel. I don't abandon people. It is a statement of fact. A personal rule that overrides the military one. His own squad could crest the ridge at any moment. They would see him. They would see him aiding the enemy. The consequences would be immediate. Court-martial. Treason charges. He knows the regulations. This is not tactics. There is no strategic value here. This is something else. A compulsion. A refusal. He has seen too much left behind on too many worlds. He reaches for his thigh compartment. His fingers find the release for the medkit. It is a small gray box scarred from use. He does not reach for his rifle. The first rule of war is not written in any manual. It is the instinct to preserve your own, to destroy the other. It is the simplest equation of conflict. He breaks it. The click of the medkit latch opening is louder than the distant explosions. The sterile white interior glow lights up the gray ash around them. He begins prepping a coagulant injector. His movements are efficient, practiced. He is not looking at her as a Vorsak captain. He is looking at a complex system of trauma, punctured carapace, severed circulatory lines, neural shock. A problem to be solved. His training as a field medic takes over, pushing aside his training as a soldier. The world narrows to the work, the hum of his equipment, the ragged, wet sound of her breathing. He is exposed here. A single stray round could end them both. But the act is done. The rule is already shattered. The choice was made the moment he knelt. What could drive a soldier to defy every protocol, to risk his own life in standing for a single enemy left for dead? Nilaria waits for the blast. It is the Vorsak way. Her body is a ruin of pain, but her mind remains clear. She has seen this moment before from the other side. The victor approaches the crippled. The barrel rises. A quick energy discharge. A clean end. It is a mercy in her culture. To be left alive is to be forgotten. To be a burden. Her mandibles tighten. She prepares her mind to detach from the physical shell. It is the final duty of a warrior. She sees the human approach through a haze of pain. His armored form is a dark silhouette against the burning sky. He moves with a purpose she recognizes, the walk of a soldier closing on a target. She braces. Her secondary heart pumps combat stimulants in a final, useless surge. Her body knows only the pattern, threat, response. But his hands do not bring a weapon. They bring tools. His gloves are stained with dirt and coolant fluid. They move over her wounds with a clinical efficiency that feels alien. The pressure of a biosealant applicator, the cold sting of a disinfectant spray, the precise clip of a wire to cauterize a leaking hydraulic line. Her carapace is exposed, vulnerable. His touch is not violent. It is methodical. She does not understand. Her vocalizer grinds, damaged. The words come out distorted, a rasp of sound and static. Why? It is the only question her training cannot answer. This deviation from the script of war makes no sense. He does not look up from his work. His focus is on a severed artery he is clamping. "You're wounded." The reply is flat, factual, as if he is stating the weather. It explains nothing. It changes everything. Her culture has no concept for this. Help is a resource. It is calculated, measured, distributed only to those who can return value to the collective. You help the hive. You help the swarm. You never help the threat. A predator that shows weakness is a predator that dies. Compassion is a statistical error. An evolutionary dead end. To spend resources on an enemy is insanity. It risks the whole for the meaningless one. She is a commander. She has stood on bridges and given the order. Mark them contaminated. Leave them. She has watched blips vanish from her tactical display, knowing they were her own soldiers, too damaged to recover. It was not cruelty. It was mathematics. The equation of survival. The needs of the swarm outweigh the needs of the single unit. Now she is the single unit. The equation has been inverted. The weight of her body is lifted. He has his arms under her, adjusting his stance to carry her broken form. His strength is not a show of force. It is quiet, applied. His purpose is not to display power but to provide support. There is no ceremony, no pride. It is simply being done. She is being carried by the enemy. The thought is so profoundly disruptive it short-circuits her pain receptors. Everything she was taught, every doctrine of command, every principle of Vorsac supremacy begins to fracture under the sheer, inexplicable weight of this act. The architecture of her belief system, built over a lifetime of service, has a crack in its foundation. Why would a warrior of a supposedly weak, illogical species perform the one act her own strong, logical people would never consider? The conflict was never about hate at its core. It was built on a foundation of fear. 3 standard years back, long-range sensors picked up the first Vorsac mining vessels drifting into the fringe of the Sol system's asteroid belt. They were massive things, all sharp angles and dark, non-reflective hulls. Their energy signatures were unfamiliar, powerful. They did not broadcast on any known frequency. They just began cutting into rocks, harvesting minerals with brutal efficiency. Human Command dispatched 3 cruisers from the Mars garrison, the Beijing, the Cairo, and the Montreal. Their orders were simple. Make contact, establish a communication protocol, assess intentions, standard first contact procedure, practiced 100 times in simulations. They moved in maintaining a safe distance. They broadcasted peaceful greetings on every known band. They waited for a reply. The Vorsac response was not a hail. It was a volley of concentrated plasma fire. The Beijing took the first hit. Its shields, calibrated for human energy weapons, flared and failed instantly. The hull vaporized. The Cairo managed a single evasive maneuver before a second blast tore its engine block apart. The Montreal got a distress signal out. A few seconds of screaming data before it too was silenced. 3 ships, 418 crew, gone in less than a minute. The official reports called it an unprovoked attack, an act of war. The news feeds ran with it. The narrative was set in stone before the debris had even cooled. We were the victims. They were the aggressors. The call for retaliation was immediate and unanimous, but the truth was a different shape. It was not an act of aggression. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. The Vorsac did not see explorers or diplomats. Their sensors, tuned for a different kind of warfare, saw a tactical pincer movement, 3 warships closing from different vectors. Their silent approach was read as stealth technology. Their hails were interpreted as jamming signals or psychic attacks. In their reality, they were a mining operation suddenly ambushed by a technologically advanced enemy. They fired first to survive. They followed their own brutal protocol. We saw a massacre. They saw a preemptive strike. 2 entirely different stories born from the same 90 seconds of chaos. One side reacted out of perceived necessity. The other side reacted out of grief and rage. Nobody in command stopped to ask why. The why got buried. It was easier to mobilize fleets than to question the premise of the war. The cycle locked into place. A raid on a Vorsac outpost here. A bombing of a human colony there. Each retaliation justified the next. Each death deepened the trench of misunderstanding. The truth of that first contact became a faint ghost, lost in the noise of 3 years of steady grinding conflict. The memory of those 418 lives became a rallying cry, a reason to keep fighting, to never question. This is the history that Dar carries with him. It's in the fatigue of his posture. It's in the way he checks his corners, the way he trusts his instincts over command chatter. He has lived with the official story. He has seen the vengeance it fuels. He knows the cost of a story that nobody bothers to question. He has lost friends to that story, and now kneeling in the ash with a dying enemy, he is acting on a different set of facts. The first shot was a mistake. The real war began when everyone decided that was the only truth that mattered. Nilaria shifts in his arms, a slight movement that costs her. Her head turns, the multifaceted eyes catching the dim light. She speaks. The words are not an apology. They are an explanation. A truth offered not to justify but to be known. Our sun is dying. The statement is flat, a fact of astrophysics. The core reactions are unstable. The light spectrum has shifted. The growth cycles fail. Our world is starving. Dar stops walking. The weight in his arms is no longer just a body. It is a history. It is a future. He looks down at the cracked carapace, the alien features that have only ever meant threat. Now they mean something else, she continues, her voice a low rasp. The Vorsak High Command saw the data generations ago. They ran the projections. Their civilization had two paths. They could try to ask for help from the unknown species whose signals they intercepted, or they could take what they needed. The calculus was simple. Asking meant revealing weakness. It meant placing their entire species at the mercy of others. They had no frame of reference for mercy. They only had a frame of reference for predation. Taking was easier than asking. The confession is stripped of emotion. It is a tactical assessment. A commander reviewing a failed strategy. The war was never about conquest for its own sake. It was not about territory or ideology. It was a desperate, brutal resource grab. A starving organism lashing out at its environment. This reframes everything. The nameless enemy in the briefing vids. The faceless swarm descending on colonies. The reports of entire agricultural domes stripped bare of organic matter. It was not mindless destruction. It was systematic harvesting. They weren't trying to eradicate humanity. They were trying to replace what their own world could no longer provide. The conflict shifts in Dar's mind. It is no longer a war of aggression. It is a war of desperation. A last violent effort to survive. The Vorsak are not monsters from the dark. They are a people backed into a corner. Their technological superiority was not a weapon of conquest, but a tool of survival, honed over centuries of coping with a deteriorating ecosystem. Their ruthlessness was not innate cruelty. It was the product of a universe that offered no soft options. Every decision, from leaving their wounded to firing on first contact, was filtered through this one brutal equation. Does this action increase our odds of survival? The enemy has a face. It is Nilaria's face, now pale with blood loss and shock. And now it has a reason that is terrifyingly fundamentally human. The instinct to protect your own, to do anything, to become anything, to ensure your people see another sunrise. Dar has felt that impulse. Every soldier has. The difference is scale. Humanity's survival was never truly at stake. Theirs was. He adjusts his grip on her, his movements more careful now. The calculation in his own mind changes. This is no longer just about saving a life. It is about understanding the war itself. The thing he has been fighting for 3 years suddenly has a shape. It is not a shadow. It is a dying star, and the terrified children of that star doing everything they can to outrun its cold. The conflict is not what he was told. It is something much older and much sadder. The equation he learned on the battlefield is irrelevant here. This is a different kind of fight entirely. He adjusts the improvised field dressing on her torso. The silence stretches, broken only by the distant thump of artillery. He speaks to the work, not to her. Compassion is a strength, he says. His voice is low. It gives us something to fight for. A reason to build. Not just a reason to destroy. The words hang in the air. For him, it is a simple truth. A guiding principle. Nilaria processes this. Her head turns slowly. The concept is alien, incomprehensible. My people call that evolutionary failure, she replies. The term is delivered without malice. It is a clinical diagnosis, a flaw in the design. To show mercy is to betray the species. It risks the whole for the one. It introduces a weakness into the collective genome. She speaks as if quoting a manual, a basic tenet of her existence. This is the chasm between them. It is not just a line on a star chart. It is a fundamental divide in how they view reality. Humanity, for all its flaws, clings to the value of the individual, the idea that a single life has inherent worth, that saving one person, even an enemy, affirms a value system worth protecting. It is the bedrock of their culture, messy, emotional, illogical. The Vorsak perspective is a cold, clean logic. The collective is the only unit that matters. The swarm, the hive. The individual is a temporary vessel for the genetic and cultural code. Any action that preserves the individual at the potential cost of the collective is a sickness, a dangerous sentimentality that evolution should have weeded out. It is a philosophy forged in desperation, hardened by a dying sun. There is no room for softness. Survival is the only metric that counts. Dar's act of carrying her from that field is not just brave. It is heretical. It is an offense against the natural order as her people understand it. He has done the one thing their entire society is structured to prevent. He has prioritized a single worthless life over the perceived safety of the whole. In her world, his actions mark him as dangerously insane. A defective unit. This clash of ideals is more volatile than any plasma charge. Weapons can be aimed. Strategies can be countered. But how do you fight a belief system that sees your core values as a fatal disease? How do you reason with a culture that views kindness as a pathogen? It forces Nalaria into a corner of her own mind. She has lived her entire life by the Vorsak code. She has ordered soldiers left behind. She has made the hard choices. She believed it was strength. Now, carried by this human, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, a flaw appears in the logic. If the sole purpose is survival and their current path leads only to mutual annihilation, then is their philosophy not also a failure? Is strength merely the power to destroy, or could it be the capacity to change, to adapt? The rigid, unyielding doctrine that promised survival might be the very thing ensuring their extinction. The question is a crack in her armor, and it is far more frightening than any human weapon. He hears them before he sees them. The low hum of a Vorsak scout bike's repulsor field. It's a sound he knows from 100 ambushes. They come over a ridge of shattered rock. 2 riders in light armor, they stop. The engines cut to an idle. Their postures are alert. They are scanning. He freezes. There is no cover here, no place to hide. They are 20 meters away. Their helmeted heads turn in unison. They see him. They see the body in his arms. They see the blue of her armor, the captain's insignia. Their reaction is not surprise. It is recognition and condemnation. Their rifles come up. The movement is a single fluid motion, no hesitation, no discussion. One of them keys a comm. His voice is a harsh, guttural burst of sound over the open air. He does not speak to Dar. He speaks about Nalaria. The word is clear even through the distortion. Contaminated. Another word follows. Traitor. The survival directive is clear. It has no room for mercy. It has no room for exceptions. A soldier compromised by the enemy is a risk to the collective. A broken tool. Eliminate the risk. Preserve the whole. The rifle muzzles are steady. They are not aiming at him. They are aiming at her. They will shoot through him to eliminate the contamination. The math is that simple. The scope of their loyalty is that narrow. Dar moves. It is not a tactical decision. It is a reflex. He turns his body. He shifts his weight. His armored back faces the scouts. He becomes a shield. He curls over Nalaria, making his body a smaller target, putting himself between her and the shots. The servos in his legs strain under the combined weight. He is now a target for both sides. His own people would shoot him for aiding the enemy. Her people will shoot him for interfering with an execution. He has placed himself squarely in the crossfire of 2 opposing sets of rules. Both sets demand his death. Nalaria sees it all. She sees her own soldiers, their weapons leveled. She sees the human's back, the dull gray armor that is now her only protection. She hears the verdict in her own language, contaminated, traitor. The words are a brand. They are the final judgment of her culture. For a second, the old programming holds. Acceptance, this is the way. This is the logical end. But then she looks at the set of Dar's shoulders. The absolute stillness of his posture. He is not fighting. He is not arguing. He is just standing there, taking the shot for her. He is enacting the very principle she just told him was evolutionary failure. He is risking the whole for the one. And in this case, the one is her. The contradiction is too vast. The old logic cracks. She makes a choice. It is not a calculation. It is a fracture. Her voice, weak and damaged, cuts through the hum of the idling bikes. She speaks in her own tongue. The command is short, sharp, an order she has given 1,000 times. Stand down. The words hang in the air. The scouts do not move. Their rifles stay up. The order makes no sense. It comes from a source they have already written off. She says it again, louder. It is the voice of a commander, frayed but undeniable. Weapons down. That is a direct order. The hesitation is palpable. Their training wars with this impossibility. A contaminated unit does not give orders. A traitor is silenced, but her rank is still valid. Her authority for this one fragile second still exists. One scout's rifle muzzle dips a fraction, then the other. They do not lower them fully, but they break their aim. They stand there confused. The rigid application of the survival directive has met its first countermand. It is her first act of defiance against everything she has ever known, and it leaves 2 of her own soldiers paralyzed by a conflict their doctrine never prepared them for. The human medkit is empty. The coagulant injectors are used up. The biofoam canisters are spent. He has done all he can with his own tools, but her physiology is too different. The blood loss continues. Her breathing is shallow. Her systems are failing. She is dying by degrees, and his supplies are no longer enough. He sees the structure ahead, a low-domed ruin half buried in scree. The angular architecture marks it as Vorsac, an old forward outpost hit hard in an earlier skirmish. The entrance is a black mouth where a blast door used to be. He carries her inside. The air is still and cold. Debris litters the floor. Broken consoles. Shattered display panels. He finds the med bay, or what is left of it. A wall cabinet is blown open, its contents scattered. He sets her down carefully and begins to search. His hands move through the wreckage. He ignores weapon components, communication gear. He looks for anything medical. He finds a container of silvery fabric still sealed in a sterile wrap. The material is unfamiliar. It has a slight shimmer. He finds a set of tools with fine, precise tips. He finds a tube filled with a viscous, luminescent gel. Alien devices. He does not know their names. He only knows their potential. He works by the dim light from the doorway. He uses the tools to clean the burned edges of her wounds. He applies the gel. It sizzles on contact with her carapace, sealing the tissue. He wraps the long silver fabric around her torso, securing it. It adheres to her skin without tape, conforming to the shape of her body. He is using their technology to save her. The enemy's tools become her lifeline. This is not a symbolic gesture. It is a practical act of survival. It is also the first true collaboration between their species. He provides the will, the care, the decision to act. Her people's technology provides the means. It is a bridge, a transaction not of fire but of aid. He is learning her biology not to exploit it but to repair it. Under the silver fabric, something happens. The severe bleeding slows. Then it stops. The edges of the worst wounds show a faint, pulsing bioluminescence. Her body is responding. The regenerative properties of her own Vorsac physiology, suppressed by shock and trauma, are catalyzed by the familiar technology. Her biology recognizes the treatment. It begins to work with it. Her systems stabilize. The steep decline levels out. She is not healed. But she is no longer dying. This is the first true exchange. For 3 years, the only things that have passed between their kinds are munitions and hatred. Now it is knowledge. It is a shared effort towards a single goal, a life. It is a quiet, desperate form of diplomacy happening on a floor littered with the debris of their war. It foreshadows a different future, one not built on shared destruction but on shared understanding. On the simple, powerful idea that the tools you build to preserve your own people might one day be used to preserve another. That survival does not have to be a zero-sum game. That the advanced medical science of a desperate species designed to cope with a harsh universe could become the very thing that saves them from the consequences of their own desperation. The technology was made for the swarm. He is using it for the individual. And in doing so, he is proving that the two do not have to be mutually exclusive. The first sign is a sound, the grinding whine of poorly maintained engines. Then 2 vehicles crest a nearby ridge. They are not military. They are patchwork machines, scrap metal and stolen parts. Raiders, scavengers. They roam dead battlefields, picking the bones after the real fighters have moved on. They see the ruined outpost. They see easy salvage. Then they see Dar, and they see him guarding something. Prey. Weapons appear from the vehicle hatches. Crude projectile rifles. They do not ask questions. They open fire. The first rounds spark off the rock next to Dar's head. He pushes Nalaria deeper into the shadow of the doorway. He returns fire. His rifle barks 3 times. One raider drops. The other vehicle swerves, its gunner laying down, suppressing fire. Dar is pinned. He is 1 man against 2 vehicles. The math is bad. He has to hold this position. He cannot let them flank him. Nalaria is propped against the wall inside. The silver fabric on her torso is dark with fresh blood from the movement. She is weak. Her body is a collection of broken signals and failing systems, but her mind is clear. Her eyes track the fight. She sees the second vehicle circling wide. They are going to come at him from the side. He will not see them in time. She makes a decision. It is not a grand gesture. It is a series of small, painful movements. She uses her arms, the only limbs that still partly obey her. She drags herself across the rough floor. Every inch is fire. She moves toward a shattered console, its inner components exposed. Wires hang like sinew. She knows Vorsak technology. She knows its power signatures. She reaches the console. Her fingers, clumsy and torn, find a specific set of conduits. She ignores the sting of raw energy on her skin. She pulls 2 wires free. She crosses them. A shower of blue sparks erupts from the console. It is a brief, violent flash of light and noise. Outside, the raiders react. The second vehicle halts. The gunner turns, distracted by the sudden energy spike from the building. It is a second. Maybe 2. It is all the time Dar needs. He sees the opening. He swings his rifle and puts 3 rounds through the vehicle's engine block. It coughs black smoke and dies. The fight ends as quickly as it began. The remaining raiders, now outgunned and leaderless, retreat. The sound of their engines fades into the distance. The silence that follows is heavy with the smell of cordite and ozone. Dar turns. He sees her by the console, her hand still on the wires. She met his eyes. There are no words yet. The act itself is the language. The protector became the protected. The debt in her view is repaid. The balance is restored, but the scale has been permanently altered. Later, when he has checked the perimeter and returned to her side, she speaks. Her voice is a whisper worn thin by pain and effort. You transformed me. The words are not an accusation. They are a simple statement of fact. She is acknowledging the fundamental shift he caused. He rewired her core programming not with words but with an act. He is cleaning his rifle. He does not look up immediately. He finishes sliding the chamber rod through the barrel. Then he answers. His voice is just as quiet. You transformed me as well. He is not being kind. He is being accurate. She has forced him to see the war not as a conflict of sides, but of people. She has given the enemy a reason, a history, a face. She has complicated his world and in doing so made it more real. This is no longer a rescue. It is not a prisoner and her guard. It is a partnership forged in the ash, tested by fire, and confirmed by a shared act of survival. The line between them has blurred into irrelevance. They are 2 soldiers from 2 opposing armies who have found a third option. What could drive a former enemy commander to risk her fragile life for the man who saved her? The answer is simple. He did not just save her life. He gave her a new one. And a new life is worth fighting for. They rest in the hollow of a rock formation. The air is cooling. The silence between them is not comfortable. It is a tense, fragile thing. It has been built on survival, on necessity. But trust is not built on necessity alone. It needs truth. And the truth Nalaria carries is a weight that could shatter the little they have. She watches him check the seals on her bandages. His hands are careful. They are the hands of the enemy that have become the hands of a caretaker. She knows this moment is a hinge. It will swing one way or the other. She chooses to push it. I have a confession, she says. The words are flat. They carry no emotion. It is a statement of fact. He looks up from his work. His eyes are tired. He says nothing. He waits. I commanded the assault on New Sydney, she says. She does not soften it. She does not justify it. She gives him the raw data. The target was a primary agricultural dome. The objective was to secure its biomass. The resistance was light. The civilian presence was high. The casualty estimate was 800 human lives. The number hangs in the cold air. It is not a statistic. It is a city. It is a community. It is people he might have known. She offers this truth as a test. She expects a reaction. She expects the careful hands to become fists. She expects the tired eyes to fill with the old hatred. She expects the mercy to end. It is what her own people would do. The confession of a failure, of a weight too heavy to carry, is an invitation for punishment. It is a request for the equation to be balanced. A life for lives. Dar does not move. He does not speak. He must confront the reality of her past. The woman before him, weak and broken, is also the architect of a massacre. This is the limit of compassion. The line where mercy meets justice. Can you extend humanity to the person who ordered the death of 800 of your own? Is there a point where understanding becomes complicity, where forgiveness becomes a betrayal of the dead? He looks at her. But he does not see the commander on the bridge of a warship. He sees the woman who dragged herself across a floor to create a distraction for him. He sees the being who defied her own soldiers to protect him. He sees the individual, not the uniform. The person she is now, not the instrument of command she was then. He sees the transformation happening in real time. The old self being shed like a skin. His voice, when it comes, is quiet. It is not filled with rage. It is filled with a terrible, weary sadness. The person who gave that order, he says. Is she the same one telling me this now? The question is the answer. He draws a line between the past and the present. He acknowledges the act without being bound by it. He chooses to see the potential for change over the certainty of condemnation. The confession does not break their bond. It forges it in truth. It removes the last pretense. There are no more secrets between them. The worst has been said, and it was heard, and it did not destroy them. The partnership is no longer based on a temporary alignment of needs. It is now based on a conscious, difficult choice to move forward, despite the weight of history. The path ahead is harder because of it, but it is also more real. It is built on a foundation of confessed atrocity and accepted pain, which is a stronger foundation than any built on convenient silence. A light stutters on the high ridge. A red pulse, too quick, one long. The human recognition signal. Dar sees it through a gap in the rocks. He does not move. He stays crouched beside Nalaria, his hand resting near his sidearm but not on it. This is the moment he has been moving toward and fearing. The sound of boots on gravel follows. A squad crests the ridge. 5 figures in standard-issue armor. They move with the careful confidence of a search and rescue team that has just become a patrol. The lead sergeant spots them first. His helmet turns. The visor hides his face, but his body goes rigid. His rifle comes up. The others follow his lead. A choreography of threat. 5 barrels are now pointed into the hollow. They see Specialist Darthorn. They see the Vorsac captain propped against the rock. The blue armor is unmistakable. The old hatred is a physical presence in the air. It is in the tight grip on the rifle stocks. It is in the way they spread out. A half-circle of imminent violence. Dar does not raise his hands. He does not reach for his weapon. He makes a gesture with his left hand, flat and open, palm down. A field signal. Stand down, no threat. The sergeant does not acknowledge it. His voice crackles over an external speaker, harsh and filtered. Step away from the hostile, Specialist. Dar does not step away. He shifts his weight. He moves his body, placing himself squarely between the raised rifles and Nalaria. He becomes a barrier. His posture is not aggressive. It is protective. A human shield for an alien enemy. The moment stretches. The only sound is the wind over the rocks. It is the moment of truth. Will his own people fire on him? Will protocol and 3 years of war outweigh the evidence of their eyes? The sergeant's rifle does not fire. The muzzle dips. Just a centimeter. Then another. He takes a step forward. He is close enough now that Dar can see the scuffs on his chest plate. The faded unit insignia. The sergeant's head tilts. He is not looking at the Vorsac anymore. He is looking at Dar. He is reading his posture, the set of his shoulders, the way he stands his ground. He is not seeing a traitor conspiring with the enemy. He is seeing a soldier protecting a vulnerable asset. The intention is clear, even if the subject is insane. Stand down, the sergeant says again. This time the order is for his own squad. The rifles lower. The tension bleeds from the air, replaced by a heavy, confused silence. The sergeant keys his comm, speaking to command in a low voice. The words are technical. Coordinates, status. The presence of a high-value detainee. The nature of the rescue has just fundamentally changed. The rescue pod descends from a low cloud cover, its engines a steady thrum. It settles on the flat ground 20 meters away. The ramp descends. The squad moves to secure the area, their eyes still flicking toward the 2 figures in the hollow. They do not approach Nilaria with restraints. They wait for instructions. She is no longer a prisoner of war to be processed. She is under Dar's protection. She is an anomaly, a problem for command to solve. The sergeant looks at Dar. Get her on the pod. It is not a suggestion. It is an order that accepts a new, unthinkable reality. They will bring her in. They will let command decide what happens next. The why is a calculation that happens far above their pay grade. A live enemy commander, one who ordered the death of 800 humans, is not just a war criminal. She is a source, a key, a potential crack in the enemy's command structure. Executing her is simple. Keeping her alive is a gamble. It is a decision born not of mercy, but of cold, strategic possibility. It is the first hint that this war might be won with intelligence, not just bullets. The medical bay on the transport ship is clean and cold. Commander Valland stands at the foot of the cot. He is a tall man with a face that has seen too many casualty reports. He looks at Nilaria. Then he looks at Dar. He does not offer a greeting. He presents a choice. His voice is level without inflection. The choices are execution or observation. The words are simple, final. There is no third option in the standard rulebook. He offers a path forward. She can live, but not as a free woman. She would be relocated to a secure facility, Cooperative Research Station Theta. It is not a prison. It is a gilded cage, a place for study and containment. Her existence would become a subject, a specimen under glass. Her freedom would be traded for her life. It is a cold bargain. Dar does not hesitate. He argues her case. His voice is quiet but firm. He stands beside the cot. She is not a danger, he says. She is an opportunity. He looks at Valon, not at Nilaria. He is speaking the language command understands. Strategy, tactical advantage. He tells them about the dying sun, the desperation, the schism in their command structure that this truth could cause. Her testimony could fracture the Vorsak leadership. It could provide the lever they need to pry the war apart from the inside. A live cooperative enemy commander is more valuable than a dead martyr. She knows their networks, their tactics, their weaknesses. She can explain the why that has eluded human intelligence for 3 years. This knowledge could end the war. It could save thousands of lives on both sides, maybe more. This is a strategic gamble of the highest order. It is mercy wielded as a weapon. A conscious decision to use compassion as a tool for victory. It inverts the entire premise of the conflict. The goal is no longer to destroy the enemy, but to understand them well enough to make them stop fighting. It is a risk. She could be playing a long game. She could be lying. The intelligence could be flawed. But the potential reward outweighs the risk. A chance to break the cycle is worth the bet. Velon listens. His expression does not change, but he sees the same thing Dar sees. Not a monster. Not a war criminal. A potential bridge. A crack in the enemy's armor that they can widen. A source of truth that could make all their weapons obsolete. He sees the raw strategic value of the asset standing before him. He also sees the unspoken thing. The change in Dar, the conviction in his eyes. This is not just a soldier's report. It is a personal testament. The decision is made. Velen gives a single curt nod. Rehabilitation, not punishment. The words change everything. A new protocol is born from an old act of defiance. She will be taken to the station. She will be studied, yes, but she will also be given a chance. A chance to speak. A chance to help build a different ending. A battlefield mercy becomes a diplomatic asset. The personal vow of one soldier is translated into official policy. The equation has been rewritten. A life is not just a life. It is intelligence. It is leverage. It is the key to a door they did not know existed. The calculus of war has accepted a new variable. Compassion is no longer a weakness to be rooted out. It is a tool to be sharpened and used. The specialist's refusal to follow an order has become command's new orders. Why keep a war criminal alive? Because the right criminal with the right story can be more powerful than any fleet. The rehabilitation is not clean. It is not quick. It is a slow, arduous process of breaking down and building up. The medical bay is bright and sterile. The air smells of antiseptic and the low hum of machinery. They have to regrow nerve clusters, rewire her motor functions. The pain is a constant. She does not complain. She endures. The process is intimate. Strangers in white coats handle her body. They map her biology. They learn her weaknesses. She learns to accept their touch. The prosthetic legs are not human. They are not Vorsak. They are a hybrid. The base structure is a lightweight human alloy, strong and flexible. The neural interface uses Vorsak biolinking technology, grown from a culture of her own cells. The materials are threaded together. Human engineering. Vorsak biology. One supports the other. The limbs are a physical manifestation of the new reality. Two enemies fused into a single functional whole. Dar is there. He does not stand in the way. He does not offer empty words. He is just present. He brings her water when her arms are too weak. He reads status reports aloud when her eyes are tired. His support is quiet, practical. He treats her not as a victim, but as a soldier going through a difficult retraining program. There is no pity in his eyes. There is expectation. He believes she can do this. That belief is a powerful tool. Rebuilding her body becomes a mirror for rebuilding trust. Each new connection, each graft of tissue to machine is a small act of faith. She must trust the human doctors not to build a weakness into her systems. They must trust her not to turn the new strength against them. The process is a slow, careful negotiation. It is a physical contract. You give us access to your biology. We give you a chance to walk again. Both sides hold up their end. The day comes. The supports are removed. She stands on her own. The new legs feel alien. They are both heavier and lighter than she remembers. The balance is different. She takes a breath. She takes a step. The motion is stiff, hesitant. The servos whine softly. The foot settles on the cold floor. She takes another. Then another. She walks the length of the room. It is a small distance. It is an immense journey. Her body is no longer just a Vorsak body. It is a symbol. A prototype. It proves a hybrid future is not just a theory. It is possible. It can work. The technology that once built better soldiers for war is now building a bridge to peace. The limbs are an argument made of metal and flesh. They say that the best of both cultures combined can create something stronger than either could alone. The pain of New Sydney is not erased. The memory of the 800 is a weight she will always carry. It is integrated into her new form. The pain is a part of the neural pathways, a constant reminder of the cost of the old way. It keeps the past present. It ensures the new strength is not taken lightly. She is stronger now, but it is a different kind of strength. Not the strength to destroy, but the strength to carry a heavy truth and still choose to move forward. She was a weapon of war, a finely tuned instrument of conquest. Now she is being remade. The same materials, the same will, the same intelligence. But the purpose has been changed. The weapon is becoming a tool for communication, for understanding, a living example that adaptation is possible, that a species known only for taking can learn to receive and in receiving, give something back. The advanced prosthetics are the key. They are not just medical devices. They are a neutral ground, a project both sides worked on, a problem both sides solved. The humans provided the framework. The Vorsak provided the interface. The success of the project required honesty, shared data, and a common goal. The trust was not built in speeches or treaties. It was built in a lab, wire by wire, cell by cell. The technology became the mediator. The limbs worked because both sides finally told the truth. The strength returns to her body. It also returns to her voice. The quiet in the medical bay is replaced by a new purpose. She can walk. Now she must speak. The privilege of movement comes with a responsibility. She has been given a platform. She must use it. They take her to a briefing room. The walls are screens. The table is long and cold. Senior officers sit on one side. They are men and women with grim faces and short haircuts. They have spent 3 years fighting the shadow she represents. Their skepticism is a physical pressure in the room. She stands at one end. Dar stands against the wall nearby. He is a silent witness. She does not look at him. She looks at the officers. She begins to talk. She tells them everything. The data on their dying son, the failed crop yields, the desperation that forced their leaders' hands. She explains the cold calculus. Asking for help was a risk. Taking what they needed was a sure thing. She tells them about New Sydney, the agricultural dome, the 800 lives. She does not soften the numbers. She does not ask for their forgiveness. She asks for their understanding. The words land in the silence. They are not an apology. They are an explanation. A key piece of data that has been missing from the war for 3 long years. Her truth is a weapon. But it is not aimed at them. It is aimed at the war itself. It is aimed at the momentum of retaliation and revenge. It attacks the foundation of the conflict by providing the one thing that was never considered, the reason why. For 3 years, human strategy was built on a simple premise. We were attacked. They are conquerors. The enemy was a monolith of aggression. Her testimony shatters that premise. It reframes the Vorsak. They are not conquerors. They are refugees, a desperate people backed into a corner, lashing out at the nearest source of survival. The war was not a campaign of expansion. It was a frantic, brutal scramble for resources. A dying animal will chew off its own leg to escape a trap. The Vorsak were willing to chew through an entire species to save their own. This is the key that unlocks the next door. The door marked peace. You cannot negotiate with a monster. You can only destroy it. But you can negotiate with a desperate neighbor. You can barter. You can make a deal. The path forward is no longer a military solution. It becomes a diplomatic one. It begins with this confession. It begins with a full and unflinching account of the horror, delivered not with a plea for mercy but with a request to see the world through a different lens. The officers listen. Their postures do not change, but the air in the room does. The anger is still there. The grief for New Sydney is a fresh wound, but it is now mixed with something else, a dawning, terrible comprehension. The puzzle finally has all its pieces. The picture it forms is not the one they expected. It is more complicated. It is more tragic. It is for the first time solvable. The battlefield mercy that saved a single life has now scaled. It has become the foundation for a new strategy. One life has become a key to saving millions. The compassion of one soldier has been translated into the most powerful form of diplomacy. The simple, undeniable power of the truth. The transmission leaves the ship. It carries her testimony. It carries the truth of the dying sun. It carries the full confession of New Sydney. It travels across the black. It reaches Vorsak High Command, and it cracks their unity wide open. The reaction is not uniform. It is a schism, a fracture in the foundation of their war effort. Some leaders double down. They call it heresy. They call Nalaria a contaminated tool of the enemy. They cling to the old way, the only way they have ever known. Conquest or death. The survival directive is clear. There is no room for doubt, no room for negotiation. They brand her a traitor. They call for her immediate execution, but others listen. They hear the desperation in her report. They see the logic of her argument. They have seen the projections for their home world. They know the war is a losing proposition. It is consuming resources faster than it gains them. They begin to see a new possibility. A third path, a way to save their people without committing genocide. A way that involves talking, not just taking. These leaders are quieter. They are fewer. But they are there. The seed of doubt has been planted. Nalaria, in her cell on the human station, becomes an unwitting symbol for this new faction. She does not ask for it. She does not want it, but her story is too powerful to ignore. The image of a human soldier saving a Vorsak captain, the revelation of the dying sun, the raw honesty of her confession, it resonates. To some, she is the ultimate traitor. To others, she is the first savior. A voice of reason in a screaming galaxy. This internal conflict is the best hope for peace humanity has seen in 3 years. A unified enemy is a wall. You can only break yourself against it. A divided enemy is a door. You can find the hinges. You can look for the weak points. You can negotiate. The war is no longer a simple binary. It is now a complex web of competing interests and fears within the Vorsak command structure. The monolith has developed a fault line. Dar's act of mercy on that ashen battlefield has now triggered a civil war of ideas. The fight has moved. It is no longer just in the stars, ship against ship. It is in the council chambers and command decks of the Vorsak fleet. It is a battle for the soul of their species. The question is no longer whether humanity can win. The question is which version of the Vorsak will be left standing when the dust settles. The one that chooses death or the one that dares to choose life. The old guard fights back. They release propaganda. They call the peace faction weak. They say compassion is a human disease that will infect and destroy them all. They point to Nalaria as patient zero. The new faction argues back. They point to the failing resource lines. They point to the unsustainable losses. They argue that true strength is the intelligence to change course before you crash. The debate is fierce. It is played out in secure channels and private meetings. The survival of both species now hangs on which argument proves more persuasive. The breakthrough is not a single event. It is a slow accumulation of pressure. The peace faction gathers allies. They share data that was once suppressed. They show the true cost of the war. They argue that Nalaria's treason is actually the first act of true loyalty to their people's long-term survival. They propose a radical idea, not surrender, not conquest, a dialogue, a truce built on shared need. They argue that the humans faced with the truth might be willing to share resources, to help. It is a gamble of unimaginable scale, but the alternative is the certain death of their civilization. The internal conflict reaches a tipping point. The new faction gains enough influence to send a signal, a request for a secure channel, a request to talk. The door once sealed shut now has a handle. Someone on the other side is finally willing to turn it. The treaty is not called a peace. It is an armistice, a truce. The killing stops. The fighting pauses. It is a fragile thing built on a simple exchange. The Vorsak get controlled access to uninhabited systems rich in the raw materials their world needs. Humanity gets a non-aggression assurance, a promise that the raids will end. The border is quiet. For the first time in 3 years, the silent is not the calm before an attack. The focus is not on military restrictions. It is not on disarmament or demilitarized zones. The document is filled with clauses for scientific collaboration, shared research initiatives, joint projects to develop sustainable energy solutions. The primary objective is stated plainly: to solve the Vorsak energy crisis, to save their homeworld. This is the core of the agreement. It addresses the root cause, not the symptom. It is a practical peace. It is built on a shared need to survive. The humans need security. The Vorsak need a future. The treaty makes each dependent on the other's success. It is a cautious document. It is incremental. It does not demand trust. It builds a structure where trust can grow. The resource sharing is monitored. The scientific exchanges are carefully controlled. Every step is verified. It is not built on idealism. It is built on a mutual, calculated self-interest. It is real because it is so painfully practical. It acknowledges the hatred and fear, and then it builds a path around them. Nalaria's role is formalized within the text. She is given a title: liaison, cultural translator. Her unique position is recognized as an asset. She is the bridge. She understands the cold logic of Vorsak command. She understands the messy compassion of human resolve. She can explain one to the other. She can prevent the small misunderstandings that could unravel the entire agreement. Her body, rebuilt with hybrid technology, is a living symbol of the treaty itself. A fusion of two worlds into a single functioning whole. The momentum of the conflict shifts. It is no longer a tide pushing toward annihilation. It becomes a slow, deliberate current moving toward dialogue. The communication channels, once used only for threats and ultimatums, now carry data packets, scientific research, engineering schematics. The language of war is replaced by the language of problem-solving. The question is no longer how to destroy the other side, but how to solve a shared equation of survival. A new interstellar order begins not with a victory parade, but with a shared project. Engineers from both species work in the same facility, separated by thick transparency. They do not look at each other as comrades. They look at each other as experts. They argue over power grid configurations, not battle tactics. They solve problems together. The work is the mediator. The shared goal is the common ground. The success of the project is more important than the history of the individuals working on it. The treaty focuses on science because science is neutral. A power converter either works or it doesn't. A resource yield is measurable. It provides a framework for cooperation that is not based on emotion or forgiveness, which are in short supply. It is based on results. It creates a neutral territory where both sides can engage without surrendering their identity or their pride. They are not asked to be friends. They are asked to be competent, to be professional, to build something that benefits them both. This is a language both species, after years of war, can still understand. It is the least complicated way to start. The hall is quiet. The crowd is a mix of human and Vorsak. They stand on opposite sides of the central aisle, a physical echo of the divide that defined them. The air is heavy with a history of fire and loss. This is not a victory celebration. It is a dedication, a cultural exchange center. The building is all clean lines and transparent panels, a place for learning, not fighting. A symbol of a future that is not yet real but is now possible. Nilaria walks to the podium. Her steps are sure. The hybrid prosthetics are silent on the polished floor. She does not look at the crowd. She looks at the device that will amplify her voice. She takes a breath. Her voice, once a weapon of command, is now a tool of a different kind. "We began as enemies," she says. The words are clear. They carry across the silent room, separated by misunderstanding. She does not soften the past. She states it, a fact, a starting point. She speaks of the battlefield, the ash, the moment a human soldier knelt. She does not use Dar's name. She calls it one act of mercy. She credits this single deviation from the script of war for revealing a truth. That strength is not only in the power to destroy, but in the courage to reach out. That the survival of a species might depend on its capacity for compassion, not just conquest. She steps back. Dar moves to the podium. He stands where she stood. He looks out at the faces. Human faces marked by grief. Vorsak faces marked by a desperate pride. He speaks of the same moment, but from the other side. He speaks of the choice, the decision to break a rule. He calls it not an act of heroism, but an act of clarity, seeing a person where there was supposed to be a target. He speaks of the courage it took for her to accept that help, to defy her own conditioning, to choose a new path when the old one was the only one she knew. This is the culmination. The ceremony is the public ratification of a private truth. The mercy of a single soldier has been scaled. It is no longer just a personal code. It is the foundation of a new policy. It is the reason this building exists. What began as a solitary act of defiance in the dirt is now a civic project, an interstellar agreement. The personal transformation of two soldiers has become the blueprint for a fragile peace. They are no longer a soldier and his prisoner. They are not a captor and a captive. They stand side by side as partners, as architects. They have built this moment from the wreckage of their war. They have taken the shattered pieces of their old identities and fused them into something new, a joint purpose, a shared responsibility for what comes next. The silence in the room breaks. It is not a loud applause. It is a hesitant sound. A few hands clapping, then a few more. A Vorsak mandible clicks in a gesture of respect. A human nods. The applause does not roar. It builds slowly, from both sides of the aisle. It is an acknowledgement. Not a victory, but of a chance. A fragile, difficult, earned chance. The breakthrough that allows this is not a treaty signature or a technological marvel. It is a shift in perspective, forced into the open by two people who chose to see each other as they were, not as they were supposed to be. They proved that the most profound change does not start with armies or governments. It starts with a single, quiet decision to act against the current of hate. They stood before their peoples not as symbols of their pasts, but as proof of a different future. They became the bridge they needed to cross. The story ends where it began, with a choice. A soldier looks at a broken enemy. The protocol is clear. The math is simple. Leave them. Save yourself. The rule exists for a reason. It keeps things clean. It keeps you alive. Dar chose differently. The context is transformed. The galaxy is not the same. The choice was not made in a vacuum. It landed in the dirt and sent out ripples. Those ripples reached command decks. They reached council chambers. They reached a dying sun. The simple act of kneeling in the ash altered the gravitational pull of the entire conflict. The trajectory of the war is forever bent. It is no longer a straight line toward mutual destruction. It is a curve, an arc. It is heading somewhere new. Salvation came from the most unexpected source, an enemy's hand. The Vorsak were a problem to be solved, a threat to be eliminated. Their strength was their uniformity, their cold logic. Their weakness was supposed to be their lack of compassion. That was the human assessment. It was wrong. Their weakness was their rigidity, their inability to adapt. The true salvation came from the one thing they could not compute, a human soldier who saw a person in the wreckage, who valued one life over the doctrine of the many. The hand that should have held a weapon held a medkit instead. It took losing everything to find what truly mattered. Nilaria lost her body, her command, her place in her society. She became an exile, a traitor. She had to shed her entire identity. Dar risked his career, his freedom, his standing with his own people. He stood against the current. They both had to let go of who they were to become what was needed. They had to lose the war they knew to find the peace that was possible. The circle of vengeance is broken by an unbroken circle of compassion. For 3 years, the cycle was predictable. An attack, a retaliation, an escalation. It was a closed loop, a feedback echo of pain and anger. Dar's act introduced a new variable. Compassion is not a one-time event. It is a circuit. It generates its own energy. He gave mercy. She in turn protected him. That act built trust. That trust fostered confession. That confession enabled understanding. The circle does not end. It expands. It includes more people, more possibilities. It is a self-sustaining reaction, but it creates instead of destroys. The war is not over. The armistice is a pause, a ceasefire. The hatred is still there. The grief for New Sydney is a fresh wound. The fear on both sides is a real thing, but the trajectory has changed. The momentum is no longer carrying everyone toward the abyss. The path has a new destination. It is no longer about winning. It is about surviving together. The goal has been redefined. Strength is redefined. It is found in rebuilding, not just in destroying. The ultimate display of power is not the force required to break an enemy. It is the patience and skill required to put something back together, to take the shattered pieces of two cultures and assemble a new structure, to build legs for a former enemy, to build a treaty from a confession, to build a future from a battlefield. This is a stronger kind of strength. It is durable. It lasts. The final image is not of a battlefield, but of a shared future. It is a quiet room. Two species stand apart, but they are looking at the same thing. A building meant for exchange, for dialogue. The air is not filled with smoke and screams. It is filled with a hesitant silence and then a slow building sound of acknowledgement. It is not a victory. It is a beginning. It is fragile. It could shatter. A single mistranslation. A broken promise. An act of bad faith. The whole thing could collapse back into fire. But it is real. It exists. It is a thing that was built. It was built by a soldier who refused an order and a commander who questioned her own truth. They built it with their hands. They are the proof. Enemies can become the architects of peace, but only if one of them is willing to lay down the blueprint of hate and pick up a different tool. The tool is not a weapon. It is a choice. And it is always there, on every battlefield, in every conflict, waiting for someone to use it. Sometimes strength means kneeling in the ash. It means looking past the uniform and seeing the person. It means reaching for a med kit instead of a rifle. The most powerful weapon is the one you never fire. It's the choice to listen instead of shoot, to understand instead of destroy. Remember that the next time you draw a line between us and them. The line is an illusion. It's a choice. You can follow the protocol or you can change the story. One act of compassion can break a cycle. It can start a new one. It starts with you.